Satoshis do not exist. The units of the Bitcoin system, they do not exist.
You sold me.
That's great. The title is not a clickbait or anything. That's as real as it could get.
Why do Satoshis not exist?
The reason they don't exist is like, if you take a look at a transaction and you try to see where are they, there are no Satoshis. And I'm making a computer scientific argument here. I'm not making a philosophical one.
I will ask you again if you don't answer.
It is changing the world. And there's no way you can deny the impact. I just don't think is this highly...
The tagline Satoshi don't exist, not a Bitcoin movie, a movie that happens to be about Bitcoin. What's the story behind this title?
Well, that's the punchline. That's not the title. The title is just Satoshis don't exist. Well,
Yeah.
You know what? I've noticed that a lot of people started having this idea of Bitcoin movies. And for me, that kind of bothered me a bit. Not too much, just a bit, because it kind of, well, the point is like a movie is a piece of art. And the piece of art, you're supposed to go there and not have any preconceived notion of it, and just really try to figure out what a piece of art is about. So if I'm telling you this is a Bitcoin movie, I'm not leaving any room for artistic exploration, right? And I feel like all the good movies that happen to be about a certain thematic, they happen to be about it. For example, 2001: A Space Odyssey. That's not a space movie. That's a movie that happens to take space in a place in space. So the same way, I feel like, I mean, I want this to be a movie that if you're not a Bitcoiner, you would still watch it and it would be like, oh, the theme of this happened to be something Bitcoin thematically related. So I kind of wanted to transmit that to some degree. And that's why I said it, because I just feel everyone just feels like, oh, Bitcoin this, Bitcoin that. They just put the Bitcoin sign on whatever they do, you know? So yeah, I guess that was some kind of social commentary, I guess you could call it.
So that's why you also put Satoshi don't exist and in the big title and not Bitcoin.
No, the title, I mean, the title is that's really what you're going to get in the movie. That is, the movie is going to be about the fact that Satoshis do not exist. The units of the Bitcoin system, they do not exist. And I understand that's quite intriguing. And that's why I decided to make a movie about this. But no, the title is not a clickbait or anything. That's as real as it could get.
Okay. Before we get deeper into the movie, why are you making a movie about Bitcoin in the first place? Like, what's your motivation? Why did you came into Bitcoin? Why did you make the Bitcoin movie? And what's your Bitcoin story till now?
Okay, I guess I should start with the Bitcoin story then. Well, I was studying computer science in 2012 in Romania, in Bucharest, and I wasn't too happy about it. I kind of wanted to quit anyway, and I discovered Bitcoin by mistake. And then ever since then, every waking second of my life was about Bitcoin. And over the years, I've been involved in a lot of projects. A lot of projects has to do with mining in the early days. I tried to build some apps with some friends. Being a part of a bunch of startups, which none of them took off in a big way. But the most recent project I was involved in, and the one that was successful, was OTC disk that was called IBEX, and I was running in London. So that's the origin story. What else? Just why am I making a movie? I mean, this is all I've done all my life, man. Like for the last 12 years of my life, every day, that's what I do. There's nothing else. Everything in my life is secondary to trying to do things with Bitcoin. But still, that doesn't explain why I'm making a movie. Well, around 2020, when COVID was happening, this OTC list that I was running was doing really well. But there was this problem because for the last month, most of my days were spent just trying to figure out how to do regulations and paperwork and stuff like that. Not that I don't like paperwork, but I didn't like this type of paperwork. And
paperwork for what exactly?
Oh, it was paperwork for like, well, we had to register for like pretty much kind of get a license, which was pretty close to like a license you get when you try to get a bank. We weren't trying to become a bank, but it was that type of scrutiny, and it was just a lot of paperwork, and I just didn't find it enjoyable. And then one day, it was just like I was just waking up every day, and I wasn't doing what I like. And at some point, I was like, why am I doing this? What's wrong with me? I could stop right now. And I stopped it. I closed it down. People weren't happy about that, the people who were involved, but it was what it was. And then after a while, I said, like, well, I'm curious what I'm going to do now. And I ended up getting a camera for the wrong reasons. And then I started like just I made my way into like kind of like trying to make things and stuff like this with the camera. And there was this one moment I made a video with a friend of mine, with Adam Waxwing, about Schnorr signatures, and that's when I said, like, I want to be a movie director. This was why I was put on this earth. So that's why I'm making a movie, because I just fall in love with this thing, with filmmaking, I guess, you know.
And then the Bitcoin movie is basically like a self-explanatory. If you're into Bitcoin, if you're into movie making, at some point you're making movies. How did you get started with the idea of the movie, like this searching of the team, getting sponsors, getting choosing the place? How does this all come together?
Well, I was speaking with a friend of mine, actually, and we were having this chat, and we both reached the conclusion of, hey, Satoshis don't exist. And we were like, isn't that such a crazy thing? Because we were both like, we've been around for quite a long time. It's like, I can't believe this is such a simple and obvious thing. I just never bothered to look at it. I never looked at where Satoshis are, and if they are there. And I was like, ah, that's such a funny thing. I'm just gonna go and tell everyone I know about this. And I started telling people, and also the people that I was telling this, they're like hardcore protocol developers, you know, so they're not like noobs or anything like this. I'm telling them that, guys, Satoshis don't exist, and they have this weird reaction. They just try to prove me wrong. And I was sitting down one day, and I was just thinking, dude, when I realized this, when I was told this fact, I was so happy, because hey, there's something new about Bitcoin that I didn't know. There's something that turns my world upside down, and I'm so happy about this. I wish this is true, even though I can't wrap my head around it immediately why this is true or not. But everyone else, they just want to. They don't want this to be true. And I said, like, why is this conflict of opinion? And when I said the word conflict, I said, like, oh, I have to make a movie about this, you know. So that's why I decided to make a movie about it.
And why do Satoshis not exist? Like I think
Well,
there are already apps that have like the calculations you can change in Satoshis. They're like Satoshis are like in the Bitcoin community. I think really settled as a as a unit of account from Bitcoin, as a smaller unit of Bitcoin. Like why don't they exist?
well, I'm not gonna tell you that because I would give away the movie, and it's not like these things weren't discussed before. Like if you go and you search on the old forums, these topics have been discussed before. But the main idea, the reason they don't exist, is like if you take a look at a transaction and you try to see where are they, they're no Satoshis. They're imaginary units. And as soon as you hear this, you think like, oh, this is supposed to be hard money. So you start panicking a bit. But it's no. The reason Bitcoin has certain properties that it has is precisely because Satoshis don't exist. And I'm making a computer scientific argument here. I'm not making a philosophical one. So really, the idea would be that I'm trying to explore the intellectual aspect of this, which is like precisely how it works. You can look at the code and whatever, and then there's the consequences of this, and then there's the idea of like, but the interesting part is like, but why do people react to this? Why do people have this weird reaction to it, you know, when they're presented like that?
That's crazy. Like I have a really urge to see the movie now. You sold me.
That's great.
In April, it's coming out, right?
No, it's not. Well, it was supposed to. We thought it's going to come up in April, but it's going to be more like July and stuff like that. So yeah, I don't even know if I answered your question. I'm so sorry. I'm all over the place.
It's fine. I note everything. I will ask you again if, if you don't answer. Um, did producing the movie change your perspective on first, like usually when I go deep in a topic and then make a video out of it. I made this earlier and now I'm only making the podcast, but earlier I make like videos from specific topics, and I sometimes discover when I also when I make a tweet and I research about a topic, there's sometimes the research process and getting the information in a nice order, it can change my view a little bit about the topic, because you are researching differently when you're putting the information together for someone else or only you. That's, for me, it makes a difference. I don't know if it's the same for you.
Oh, I definitely agree with you. And there was a part of the process which was like that. I was as sorry, as I was researching, it was getting more concrete, and I was seeing other things. But I spent 6 months researching this, and I had Adam, the guy who I did the first video with. He's the technical consultant on the movie. He's a really smart guy, one of the smartest people I ever met in my life. Anyway, so it wasn't like. So when I said I'm gonna make the movie, like there was no surprises left for me. There was nothing that anyone on the planet could show me or tell me that I didn't thought about, right? But in the beginning, yeah. I guess the things that I knew and I didn't initially, I didn't figure it out. What you know what was interesting is like, well, the idea is that because the whole conflict of this movie, the whole premise of the movie was the conflict between the fact that I reacted a certain way to this information and other people reacted this way. I said that, I want this movie to be, I want to talk with some other people about this. And it's not going to be necessarily strictly like a documentary. It will be more like it will be like a movie. It's not just going to be just talking heads, but I wanted to talk with other people. And what really surprised, and I ended up talking with three people. I went to this place called BTC Azores, which is an unconference, which is, it's kind of weird. There's this island in the middle of Atlantic, and people go there and talk about Bitcoin. So I went there and I interviewed some people. But sorry, what I found out is like, while talking with these people, the way they explained something that I thought about, it was so odd that I would have never be able to say it like that. And I don't want to say what it is because I'd give away the interesting parts of the movie. But and also, what was also interesting is like all the three people that I talked with, they all said the exact same thing to the T. There was no disagreement about like how this fact works, but their conclusion around the fact was like everyone had it differently. And I thought that was so interesting because um, like there was no conflict on the technicals, but as soon as you went away from the technical, that's when the conflict came about with interpretation and stuff. So you
And
know,
these are also the three people that are on the X channel presented. Like I didn't know, I don't remember the names. Daniela, I think there's two guys, one girl.
yeah. So the thing is, like when I realized that the way I want to approach this topic, like I said, I definitely want to go as deep as you can on this topic. That being said, this is not an explainer video or anything. It is a movie, and it will be entertaining. So I figured out, you know what, I need to find some people that really have the intellectual capacity of going anywhere on this topic, not just necessarily computer science, but philosophy or anywhere it might go. But they also have to be interesting because the thing is, like, when you write a character in a movie, you get to decide how the character is, and he has certain like characteristics, and that's what draws you to it. Sorry, the one thing is like a good character is idiosyncratic. Idiosyncratic means like it has something that stands out. So then I made a huge list of people who are smart and are kind of like a movie character, and I ended up trying to see who is going to come on the island there and whatever, and that's why I ended up with them. And the three people are George Provus, who's old school core contributor, Josie Bake, who's also a core contributor, and then Albertoni, who's BDK contributor. So yeah, these were the people.
And the movie is actually just about the premise that there is like, obviously it's you don't want to speak too much about the movie's content, but it's, you said it's not explaining Bitcoin, it's explaining the premise of the title. So it's not a movie for newbies, it's more like a movie for Bitcoiners, if I understood it right.
Um, so yeah, the thing is, like, like, have you ever seen any Wes Anderson movies?
No.
No. He has. It, it's hard to explain this without having a point of reference, but I'm trying to think of a movie that kind of is very close to how this was. Um, the idea is that there's a narrative structure to the movie. There definitely is a narrative structure, and the narrative structure is that I came up with this whole thing, and then I went and talked with some people on this island, and that's where the event took place. So that's what's
So
gonna happen. Yes.
so everything is also recorded on the island.
A big part of it is recorded on the island. Yes, a big part of what happened is recorded on the island. Yes.
I like the idea of people making content about Bitcoin. It's such an important topic. It's like it goes into freedom, it goes into money, it goes into a broken system. Like, uh, what is the most important thing for you in Bitcoin? What drives you to make content in this field? Like, what property is like, that's what I want to be in Bitcoin? Or like, if you orange bill
Yeah,
someone
I don't know.
new
You know
in
what?
a
Like,
like a grill party or
I
something,
never,
like a
even though I
relative,
always intellectualized
what do you want them to understand
the
about Bitcoin?
sorry.
What do you want them to understand about Bitcoin?
I don't want him to I actually don't want anyone to understand anything. As I said, this is a movie. I want him to feel something. I don't want him to understand anything. I'm not trying to explain anything. I'm not trying even to convince people of Satoshis don't exist. What I'm trying to capture is this. You know how for me it's like this. I discovered Bitcoin, and in the moment I discovered, there was this feeling. This my heart stopped for a second, and I was, this is incredible. And the reason why it was incredible is like as soon as that came into my mind, I could see all the implications, ramification, all these things. Now I don't want to tell you those implications. I want you to feel that same feeling that happened there. That's what I'm trying to capture in this movie. And this feeling was when I was like, this whole thing with Satoshi didn't exist. It was just like time stopped for a moment. I was like, if they don't exist, then this happened and this happened, and this happened, and all these things are going on in my head, and that feeling of like, oh my god, this is magical. That's what I'm trying to give in this movie, and so that's what I'm trying to say. Like, you don't have to be technical, or you don't have to like do your homework. It's like I want you to capture that feeling, but again, it is talking about Bitcoin, so it will have some concrete elements. I hope that
Okay.
answered the question.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to the movie, and I think we'll cover the movie right, so that you didn't give up any content that is in there, but still make people really want to see it. I'm looking forward to July. You said, right?
Yeah,
Um,
I will release a trailer, by the way, probably by the end of January or something, depending how the filming is go, and that will reveal a bit more about it. So I'm not trying to be super secretive, but yeah.
yeah, this would be actually my next question if there's a trailer coming up before July. So January is a trailer coming up with the launch of the Bitcoin spot ETF.
Yeah, I don't know. That would be cool if that would happen. Um, yeah, I don't want to make any promises, but like maybe end of February, maybe end of January, a trailer is gonna come out. Yeah.
Did you saw the advertisements from I think like two or three already came out with Bitcoin ETF ads before even the approval came? Did you saw the ads?
Yeah, I saw the one with the meme guy. I thought that one was the best made out of all of them.
With the most
Um,
interesting guy on earth. What? How did you like it? Like, what would you? How would you make an ad for a Bitcoin ETF for, like, example, BlackRock?
Yeah, well, I mean, I also maybe should have clarified. Like, for the most part, since I started making movies, I only made commercials. This is my first movie that I'm making. I only made commercials. And I studied commercials, and also the movie is gonna include commercials inside it. And I know that sounds kind of odd, but anyway, to answer the question, gee, I don't know. Like, how would I make a commercial? It's hard because when I make a commercial, like, there's no way I could have an idea about it. I would have to talk with a client, and they would have to tell me what they want to do, and then I would have to tell the story. Well, I don't know. It's like, what do you think? Why do you think anyone would need an ETF?
And that's an interesting question because I would never buy an ETF. But I understand. I understand there are people out there that just trust their legacy financial systems so much, and they need a financial advisor telling them to buy Bitcoin. So I also think that in the ETF game, it will be more about salespeople and less about ads, because you need the financial advisors, you need the salespeople actually selling the high ticket clients, the ETFs, like, hey, you should invest 1%, 5%, 10%, 20% of your portfolio in Bitcoin. And I think it will be different. I was just curious because we like Bitcoin ETF is like right now a big topic, maybe not as big as when the podcast from us now comes up, because today is the 2nd of January. It comes out like maybe middle or end of January, our episode. So if someone watching this, so it will be interesting how the ad are released.
Well, if I would have to make an ad right now, I would think. Well, the thing is, like, mainly the main purpose to use an ETF is if you're like a financial institution, because you can't get exposure to this in any other way, right? You need a specific type of financial product. So I would kind of like I would kind of like try to turn around this whole thing of like an institutional thing. I would probably try to create some kind of small narrative structure of having someone who doesn't look like it's an institution. Like, when you think of an institution, you think someone in a suit and button down and all these things. I would find the most punk rockers. I would follow a person waking up who has the most punk rock way of like living in the house, walking there, getting in the car on a motorcycle, I don't know, having tattoos, doing drugs on the way, I don't know, something like this. And then he walks in, and then in his office he buys the ETF. That's what I would do. I would just turn it around, so everyone would be like, oh, I would never expect that. Yeah,
I think that would be actually a good one.
I don't
Um,
know.
yeah, could be. You have this is a completely random question from me now, and maybe there's nothing behind it. But I saw your X profile and I saw your handle raw avocado.
Yeah.
Does this have any story, or where is it coming from? Raw
Oh
avocado.
no, no, it is the most uninteresting story. The first time I ate avocado in Romania, I realized it was ripe. It was not ripe; it was raw. And that's when I opened my Twitter, I think, and that's how that came about. But it has no meaning or no
It
nothing.
it
Yeah,
it, it,
and
it
I'm not vegan. A lot of people ask me, I'm not vegan, not at all. No, I couldn't
that
be further from veganism, actually.
yeah, that would be actually my next question, because sometimes the avocado stands for like the plant-based movement a little bit in my view, as my thing. Um, where do you see when you look out in the Bitcoin's future, like maybe 100 years ago? Because I always like to see what people think about Bitcoin in like 100 years or like 20 years, like really far into the future, where we might actually have a chance of seeing that revolution going on. Where do you see Bitcoin? Do you see it as replacing fiat? Do you see it living besides fiat? How will it change, or is it just money and it does not change a lot?
Yeah, I mean, you know what? I used to think for a long time, probably in the first years, that this is going to come and replace fiat, and it says all the evil in the world is going to be saved by Bitcoin. But I don't think that's going to be true. I just think it is probably going to live alongside it. I mean, I think it's easy. I think there are a lot of people who came up with optimistic scenarios for this. I would think it would be more interesting to think of a more pessimistic one. Like, I think a big pessimistic scenario, and I hope this is not going to happen. But a pessimistic scenario is the miners get captured by by regulations, and we don't have censorship resistance. And the weird part about that is that I think we could have that system, and Bitcoin would probably still be up in price. You know, so I hope that's not what's going to happen. But I don't know. 20 years is just so hard to say, because I mean, I know I used to make predictions even 5 years ago, and they're all so couldn't be further away from what we expected. I don't. I'm sorry. I know people usually like to go on podcasts and be like, "It's gonna save the world. It's gonna do all these things," but I just don't believe that. I just don't. I can't. I don't feel like I couldn't say that because I don't believe it 100%.
Yeah, I have both side of people on, actually. Like there are people saying, "Oh, it will be a revolution, even spiritual for all people." But there are also people that say, "Hey, come on, it's just money." It's like it will maybe be an evolution for the money sphere, and it will be a way for people how to save effectively money. But if you put in the work, you could have done it before also, kind of in the fiat system with real estate, stocks, ETFs and stuff like that. So it's just another vehicle, and it's interesting how Bitcoin is seen and how different the objectives here are.
I mean, there's just to be very clear, it already is revolutionizing the world. It is changing the world, and there's no way you can deny the impact. I just don't think is this highly utopic thing. I just don't see how that could ever make sense. Actually, I think is dangerous. Like when someone promises you utopia, behind every utopic promise is always some kind of like dictatorship to some degree. So yeah.
Yeah, it's hard, but I think that's the main revolution behind it is that there is no creator. Like we still don't know who's the Satoshi Nakamoto, and if it's a guy, a girl, a group of people. There's so many theories about it, and I was like, obsessed in the beginning actually with the story about it, and I read, I think, two or three books about it, who Satoshi Nakamoto might be. There are like really people out there and analyzing every email, analyzing everything he kind of left, like the language he used, the accent he might be associated, and there are and my end of the research just concluded there is no one strategy that he might be this person or might be that person. And yeah, moving on from Bitcoin, as a filmmaker, you might have an unique view about social media. Like, what platform do you like the most? I guess YouTube.
No, well, I'm mostly active on Twitter, and I post quite a lot. And I don't know if you noticed, but recently I said that I realized we have to start promoting the movie, and I try to making a bit more effort in that regard. So by the time this goes out, there should be a lot of posts that I made. Twitter is definitely my favorite because I like to talk a lot. I also post things on Instagram because I take photography. Um, I do photography just to practice composition and stuff, but no, it's probably gonna be Twitter. The only I also like. I mean, if I'm gonna post videos, I would prefer on YouTube because it's better format. But yeah, Twitter.
Yeah, Twitter also has. They are working really hard to push videos. At least I see that when I have a video, it kind of gets pushed a little bit more. I think it gets an boost in more instead of just a picture or just a text. What would you change about X? How it like is now? Would you have a standard section just for like videos? Do you have anything around that?
I mean, I'm actually very happy with what Elon Musk did. I don't really understand why how people were cheering on when Jack was at the boat when it was awful. It was absolutely awful. Like I mean, and the things that came out of the Twitter files is like, oh my god! And all of a sudden, Elon Musk came. Everything is good about it. Every single change he makes literally made the platform 10 times better. I don't understand why people are not happy. The only thing I would change is very simple. I would just want better quality video. I mean, I spend like, a lot of money on my equipment to get like super quality video. And when you put it on Twitter, it compresses a lot. That's probably the only thing I would change. But I'm very happy with Twitter. I use it a lot. I like it.
Yeah, it also recommends you to only upload in 720 and not in HD. So but I always try to get the highest quality up. That's that's funny. We are having an end routine at the podcast where the previous guest asked the question for the next guest, and your question is an interesting one. How much freedom is enough freedom for you?
Oh, I just feel freedom with caveats is not freedom. That's where I lean in that thing. And of course, that sounds very scary, because I mean, when you think about it, it's like ultimate freedom really means there's no walls around me. And at some point, humanity was existing like that. There were no walls around us, and life was probably incredibly difficult. And probably some people got together and it's like we have to put some walls around us. When in some sense, you're limiting the freedom. And then this went to some degree over, probably a few 100,000 years, and now here we are, which things are quite a bit stable, but there's too much walls. And there's nothing wrong with having walls, but the problem is that someone comes and builds a wall around you. And I'm talking about like, like the state or something like that. Um, and even though life is the best it's ever been, that's kind of happened now. So I just feel like that's how freedom looks like. And also like I had this incredible cultural shock when I first went to the US. I never saw a gun in my life. Right now, here I am shooting guns at the range, and everyone was just making fun of me of how here we don't have freedom, and to some degree they kind of are right because I'm not sure about the guns precisely, but just as a general comment on this thing, it's like I would rather prefer less intervention from the state and whatever, and I want to take matters in my own hand and protect myself rather than be overprotected. So, but to get back to the original question, yeah, I don't think freedom has caveats. Freedom with caveats, there's not freedom.
So that there cannot be enough freedom. What are you saying? Okay, okay.
Yeah, I mean, that's how I see it anyway. Yeah, I feel like that's kind of like the main promise of Bitcoin to some degree. The idea is that no one can stop you from broadcasting a transaction with whatever caveats and stuff like that. So yeah, yeah, that's where I lean on this thing. I guess I probably would think that I like some kind of a narco capitalist type. I sympathize. I don't know if I would like it, but I sympathize with it.
Yeah, me too. Me too. Very, very much even. I usually ask where people can find you, and where do you want to put direct people to, but I guess it's on X, and Satoshis doesn't exist on the Twitter channel, also the film.
Yeah, I mean, you can find me at Round Square Avocado, definitely. And yeah, you can find the movie there. And also, we have a Gazer campaign. So if you want to donate to the movie, donations are very much appreciated. Oh, you actually asked me at some point, I didn't answer, like, about the
The
production
sponsors.
process and how I found the sponsors. Yeah.
Uh,
Um, but yeah, I mean, that's where you can find find me and find details about the movie there. Yeah.
how did you go and ahead and like because a movie, I don't know, like it depends of course how high quality and high cost of production you make it, but you need quite a time from the team, you need the equipment you need to place. It can be costly. How did you go ahead and make it happen?
Well, the thing is, like I said, I only made commercials before that, and I don't know if my commercials are good or not. That's up to people to decide. But I do know the quality is there. I know I could put my commercials up to anything else, and everyone said this, so and as I studied commercials a lot. So now when the idea came to make this movie, I realized that even though it's gonna have a specific narrative structure, it's gonna be quite loose. That's why I was talking about Wes Anderson movies. It's like it's not like The Godfather where like you need to follow what's going on and whatever. It's gonna be a bit more playful. So when I realized that's gonna happen, I realized that stylistically I can do a lot of things. And then I was sitting down at some point and I was like, dude, we should have some products placements. And I was like, here's the truth. If I'm gonna have a product placement in my movie, um, I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna make it look nice, and I'm gonna make sure stylistically everything works with the movie. And it's like I'm gonna make it like a commercial. And I was like, well, why don't I just do that anyway? Because what happened most of the time, people go to somewhere, to a company, especially people who make Bitcoin movies, and they go like, hey, can you please sponsor us out of the goodness of your heart? And then people say like, yeah, sure, maybe, and that's that. But I figured out, why don't I just go to these companies and tell them like, here's the thing, we'll place your product in the movie, and we'll make it in the style of the movie, and we'll make it like a commercial like the ones I made, and you get to keep the commercial afterwards. So it wasn't like pretty much like, hey, do this out of the goodness of your heart. Now this is a business deal right now, and also like if in the marketing promotions and stuff like that, depending on what kind of sponsorship happens, the people are going to be featured. So when that happened, people were a bit more open to it, and I was like, well, this sounds kind of interesting. I mean, even if the movie fails in the worst possible way, we're getting a commercial out of it. So
Yeah, so they can use the commercial and uh, to get value out of this anyways.
yeah.
One question came up to me also. Where do you get the movie out? Like, how do you distribute the movie?
Yeah, well, that's also like, ideally it would be to get it on Netflix or something like this, but I just have to be realistic. I'm a first time director, so and again, I know I don't know anyone in the movie industry, so I have to be realistic about this. Even though I still don't think that like the chances are impossible. I just think the chances are low, and I want to manage expectations. So, but that would be the ideal target. Other than that, yeah, there's quite a few options. Obviously, to just do it on the YouTube channel, or just find some other like distributors that's a bit lower tier, and try to have it there. There's that movie that came out, Dare to Dream, the El Salvador one, and they ended up getting like on Apple and on Amazon and stuff like that. So I think we would have a chance also with this movie. Um, to go there, but it's really early. I don't have the answer to that yet. There will be a premiere. I will say. it's kind of like 90% chance the premiere is going to be in Berlin, like a physical premiere. But I don't want to make any promises because that's still further away. But yeah,
A premiere in Berlin. It's not that far from my place, so I would definitely come.
where are you, if you can say?
Linz. It's in Austria.
In Austria,
So
okay.
I mean, Berlin is actually not as close because Germany is obviously in the border from Austria, but Berlin is high up and Austria like down. So it would be like, I don't know, a 1 or 2 hours flight, or like 5, 6, 7 hours with the car around that time. I would suggest, but for like a nice movie, I would definitely come to Berlin.
Oh, listen, I'll promise you. I don't know what's gonna happen and where that's gonna take place yet, but I can promise right now I'm gonna get a ticket. I can make that promise right now. A ticket to get inside and stuff. So yeah.
Perfect. um, then let's wrap it up, and we will interview you after the movie launched, I think.
Yeah, that sounds great. We're definitely gonna need a lot of press when that's gonna happen. And that's also kind of the point was just to start off the marketing campaign. That's why I started being a bit more active on Twitter and stuff right now. So, but yeah, that's when the main press and marketing should happen.
Perfect. Thank you for doing it.
No, thanks for having me on. Yeah, this was great.